From the 28-yard line of Auburn. Bama going left to right. Bryce gets the snap, knee high. Looks, throws the fade route, near side end zone. Got it! Caught! Touchdown, Alabama! Caught by Ja'Cory Brooks in the end zone.
And Chris Davis takes it in the back of the end zone. He'll run it out to the 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 45. There goes Davis! Oh my God! Davis is going to run it all the way back! Auburn's going to win the football game! Auburn's going to win the football game!
And Alabama has come from nowhere to defeat the Auburn Tigers in multiple overtimes.
Titan Tigers, episode 23. Welcome back. We are excited to be getting close to summer. I mean, we are in the midst.
Kids are almost out of school, aren't they?
Kids are out of school next week. I can smell the beach. I hadn't been to the beach in a long time. I got to go to the beach at some point this year. But we're excited about the summer playoff basketball. We're getting down to the nitty gritty. We had the lottery the other night for NBA, which we'll get to as one of our first topics. But baseball's really kicking into gear. Auburn looking great. Alabama looking great.
Has the transfer came in, hit a home run first at bat last night. That was great.
Florida's looking good. Texas. I mean, a lot of SEC teams are going to be hosting regionals. We can't wait to dig into the College World Series. The SEC baseball tournament will be next week. That'll be a fun little thing in Hoover, and we'll report on that. But let's get to our recaps, our headlines. Number one, is the NBA rigged? We you know, I don't think I've seen a situation like this in a long time. My question to you is not about the rigging process, but is this the right thing to do? The worst team usually gets the first pick in every other sport. NBA puts the balls in there and you pull the balls, and somebody with a 1% chance, like the Mavericks, gets the first pick in the draft.
After making a trade, knowing somehow they were going to get it.
That was my next question. So my first question is the process of the lottery the best thing to do? So it prevents teams from tanking. So you can't tank because you don't know if you're going to get the first pick or not.
I don't agree with the lottery, basically anyways, because it involves luck. And luck shouldn't be the equalizer in a professional sport, I don't think. But one thing I found out was the Charlotte Hornets, the worst team in the NBA, I want to say for, like a decade straight?
Yeah.
Has never gotten the first pick.
Yeah.
So something like that can never be fixed off of a luck.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it should be changed where something like the worst two teams or something go first and second, stuff like that. And then maybe it can be a lottery after that. But you got to help the worst teams get better.
Well, and the thing is like, you know, there's so much conspiracy theory going on. When the Knicks had the first pick, they got Patrick Ewing.
Bulls with D. Rose.
LeBron with Cleveland.
And LeBron saying he knew what it was.
Yes. So it's like Dallas is like, man, we just gave our best player away to the biggest market team, the Lakers, but in return, we're going to get Cooper Flagg in the number one pick. That, to me, is not too bad of a deal.
Not at all. And I mean, you've seen Cooper Flagg play on the pro team, or the USA team, with LeBron and everybody scoring in their faces. So I think you know when you had your time with Luka to get rid of him, and now you can bring in another Luka, basically. So yeah, I see it.
And the Spurs, that quietly goes unnoticed. They got Wemby a couple years ago. They have such a big market in France because they had Boris Diaw and Tony Parker back in the days. So they get another France guy. They're the one that's going slightly on the radar. Like, you know, there's always the situations where somebody gets everything put on them, and then somebody's kind of walking to the back alley. Like,
it's just creeping through.
Spurs got the number one pick 3 years ago. They got the number 5 pick last year, and they get the number 2 pick this year. So they've gotten 3 top 5 picks in a row, and a lot of times they're not even in the suggestions. So like everybody's like Dallas, and Stan Antonio's like, thank you, I get the number 2 pick.
Well, what is the Spurs doing with those picks? Are they trading them later on?
They got Wemby, who was the Rookie of the Year 2 years ago. They got Castle, who was the Rookie of the Year this year. They're saying this year they may trade it to kind of get Giannis or get another player. Yeah. But I mean, like Cooper Flagg may have not fit their team. He may have, but they're going to go get another good player or trade for another player, and they haven't done anything but maybe one of those years to deserve a top pick.
Yeah.
So like they get lucky, but the Hornets don't get lucky. It's just, I don't know if you remember the Magic. They got Shaq. They did a story about that. Yeah. They get Shaq, and then they're actually the lowest percentage ever to win, and they get Penny Hardaway the next year. So it's like you could literally be the 16th best team in the NBA and almost make the playoffs like the Mavericks and get the first pick.
Yep.
That's crazy to me. Like, imagine if football was like that. There'd be It would be so unfair.
Alabama would not exist, basically. It would have just been luck against them probably forever. They would have never had a good recruitment pick or something.
Here's my question to you: is the people that say the lottery's not a good thing can come back and say the Browns have gotten top picks forever and they still suck?
That's coaching. I've said that plenty of times.
Which gets me, it almost lifts me into our next thing.
I think in basketball, bad coaching sticks out more.
That was my next thing.
Because you've got less people to deal with.
What a segue to the Cavs getting eliminated in 5 games against the Pacers team. This team was the number 1 team in the NBA most of the season. They had 2 15-game winning streaks, and they lose not 1, not 2, but 4 games to the Pacers out of 5. But then I look back at the game last night as I'm watching the Pacers with Rick Carlisle, who's literally been with the Pacers, the Mavericks. He was an assistant coach when Michael Jordan played for the Pacers. This guy has been around a long time, completely out-coaching the guy for the Cavs, who I don't even know who the name is. Like, I don't even know who the Cavs coach is. I looked at the picture of him, I was like, who is that guy? Does coaching in the playoffs, is such a good point you made, but I think coaching matters so much in the NBA, in the playoffs, more than any sport.
I would say something you're realizing this playoff is bench players.
Very good point.
Because of injuries. Coaching is definitely coming to play, but you've got coaching keeping certain teams in games that they probably shouldn't have been in.
Well, I feel like
who was it? The beat the Knicks the first game or whatever. Pistons.
Yeah, Pistons. Yeah.
Like that was good coaching. I feel like they kept them in that. But then you got when a player goes down, can your coaching be good enough to keep you winning a game?
Yeah.
And no, Celtics are proving we can't get through a series.
When you're watching the NFL, there's some good plays, but usually like, man, that's a really good defense, or that quarterback's really making good plays. You're like, man, so and so really, they're like, to me, it falls on it when they do bad, the coach gets blamed. But there's not many points in the game. But I think timeouts is so important in basketball. Substitutions is so important in basketball. I think the coach has a lot more hands on the game. I know they call plays on offensive defense.
Clock management, I think, is more noticeable with basketball
than
football.
Yeah.
But football is always more exciting with he called it with 5 seconds left. Being smart about it. But basketball, it comes in every single game. Very few games do you not have to worry about the last 2 minutes of a basketball game.
So the Cavs don't even make the Final Four, the semifinals, the conference championships. They're the number 1 seed? Is this year considered a failure, or do you think, man, we had a really good year, number 1 seed, 2 big winning streaks?
I really didn't expect the Cavs to be as high as they were projected anyway.
Yeah,
but they proved me wrong throughout the season and did better than I thought. So I'm going to say it wasn't a failure for them this season. I'm going to say it was above par.
Well, you picked the Pacers, so good call on that. You also picked the Warriors, the Nuggets, and the Celtics, so you may go 1-3. Yeah, I picked the Warriors.
Celtics are struggling.
I picked the Warriors, Celtics, Cavs, and Thunder, so I may go 1-3 myself. So not really good picks on these basketball, but injuries have played into that.
Majorly.
Which leads into the next segue. This has been a great, yes.
We can just own segue.
Let's go on segues. Curry hurts his hamstring. Really affected the Warriors. They're in their closeout game tonight, which we expect the Timberwolves to win. They've dominated the last 2 games. But the big story, Tatum, Achilles.
Which we didn't know it was the Achilles until after midnight, it seemed. But
this is twice this has happened this year with Lillard and him, and then Durant Kobe. Why is this happening so much more in basketball, the Achilles injury?
So you brought it up to me the other day. I've been thinking about it. It used to be football was noticeably ACLs and stuff like that these past 20 years. But before that, it wasn't anything. Okay. Maybe a history of concussions that nobody cared about, but it was just broken bones and stuff. Nobody cared about torn ligaments. I think the development of how the speed of the games have changed have made football players have to be more agile and quick and cut, and that's what makes those injuries stick out more than they used to back in the past when everybody was just big and running through you.
Yeah.
With basketball, I think it's similar with how the game has changed, where it's more about, instead of big guys driving in, I think it's more about being agile, getting around things, and them playing year-round since they're 10, 15 years old. I think that those type of developments, instead of you had a Shaq or a Jordan back in his day, didn't have to fly from the three-point line. He could do it in college easily.
Well, you got to think like somebody like LeBron, who played 100 games like 3 times where like Michael Jordan was still in college playing 30 games.
Exactly.
And playoff basketball is a different level. You play a lot more minutes. And you see a lot of these injuries don't happen in the regular season. They happen in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. But I was going to ask you, it's weird to me. A lot of them are happening on loose balls. It's like that quick jerk back. It's not like a play where they're busting into each other. It's almost like something where they're just trying to make that quick move, like you say, and that Achilles just pops. It's never on something where like, man, I could see why that happened right there. It's like a non-contact play, just like the ACL almost.
So in Achilles, there's 2 major ways of that getting injured. You can have it bend the opposite direction from being pulled, and that's one way. The other is when it just snaps from overuse. That's something that you can't just predict. I mean, if he's just overworking himself and doesn't know it's hurt and it pops, that has nothing to do with that type of play. That's why I don't think it matters where it comes.
Well, here's the 2 things I'll say. NFL, these teams that sit their players last week and they get a bye week, I think they struggle a lot going into the playoffs because they're 2, sometimes 3 weeks from playing football.
Yeah.
And getting up into gear. You saw it happen the first game with the Timberwolves. Golden State came off a big Game 6, Game 7, and they go play the Timberwolves, who's been sitting for 5 days. And the Wolves were like, man, we just didn't expect. I thought the Warriors were going to win the series before Curry got hurt. I think they were.
Well, didn't this kind of affect the Celtics as well? I mean, we had an easy series
very,
before.
Very true. But my thing is that they're sitting these players for basketball. They have a lot of rest days. And then you pick it up to where you go to the playoffs where you're playing 50 minutes a game.
Yeah.
Is that maybe why all this is happening so much? Is that these guys play 30 to 40 minutes in the regular season, and when you get to the playoff, I mean, you see some of the Knicks guys, they're playing 50 minutes, and it's like maybe you're pushing your body to the extreme limit where you haven't really prepared for that all year.
That's true too, because I mean, if you think about football teams when they practice however many hours a day.
Yeah.
Usually it's more than 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
But a game is less than 2 hours usually, like time-wise.
Yeah.
You get lots of breaks in between, so you're pushing your body throughout the week to be able to handle just one game.
Yeah.
Basketball is a lot different. You've got multiple games throughout the week. How much are you actually preparing your body throughout it?
Yeah.
So.
Well, and the thing is, too, is that baseball, they pretty much play the same. They're playing 6-5 games a week, so they're used to when they get to the 6-5 game schedule in the playoffs.
Baseball is a whole different level. You can be 300 pounds and be a great player in that.
But football, they usually play the whole game. Like, there's not many teams that start subbing players out.
Yeah.
Now, granted, there's not many blowouts, but football players play the whole game, and they play every game. Yeah. They don't really sit out unless they're injured. Where basketball is the one sport where the guys take time off, they don't play, they take breaks, so it's an interesting thing to think about. But I was wondering, like, man, maybe all these injuries that are happening in the playoffs every year. Embiid, Lillard, Curry, Tatum, Durant, the list goes on and on. These guys are just pushing themselves too much once they get in the playoffs that they're not used to doing in the regular season. Yeah. So,
speaking of blowout, Auburn over Jack State with the baseball win last night, 18-0.
So, yes, Auburn, if you looked at the top 25 from Baseball America, Auburn is in very good shape going in.
Wasn't there an MLB game that had a score like that, 22-4 or something?
Oh, Florida blew out somebody like that, too. But you're looking at the top 25 right now in baseball. You got LSU's number 1, Texas number 3, Auburn number 6, Arkansas 8, Vanderbilt 9, Georgia 10, Alabama 18, Tennessee 17, Florida 23.
Jeez. It's like basketball over again.
It is the best conference. It is. So, all right, last thing I want to talk about in our headlines. I don't know if you saw the news, but they have lifted the ban on ineligible players. There's only a few that were blacklisted in the Major League Baseball, and Pete Rose was one of them.
I've always supported the Pete Rose story, so I wanted him to be in the Hall of Fame.
All these guys they've done this too have all passed away. So it really, like I said, none of these people are living people. But
it doesn't matter really for their
yes,
sake.
but again, they've lifted the ban. I think it was about time they did that. I mean, there's going to be ups and downs in every sport. There's good stories, there's bad stories. It's part of life. It's part of things that happen. But you can't deny that Pete Rose is one of the greatest players of all time, and nothing he did in his playing career should affect him from being in the Hall of Fame because of what he did as a manager or whatever. He's not going to the managerial Hall of Fame. He's going as a player. So I've always disagreed with that, just like you. And I'm glad.
It's kind of like when they blacklist Toby.
Yeah.
Because of his just connection to his manager right now. And Toby was guilty of it, but he's able to be like, I don't know what he's talking about. So are they going to blacklist him or is this why they're doing that maybe.
So again, like I said, one of those things where, the basketball's got some players that are blacklisted that have gambled on the games in the mid-season. That's different than gambling on the team as a manager. I know it's still part of the game and the integrity of the game, but happy to see that lifted. Just hate it. Pete Rose has passed away, so he'll never get to see that.
All I know is when you have a dive named after you, and not just a dive in baseball, a dive on water skiing, wakeboarding, because if you go up and do that, it's called a Pete Rose. So I think he's got a legacy that'll never matter.
Last one I want to say.
I mean, never be matched.
I forgot about this. Why is Aaron Rodgers not signed yet? Is the Steelers the only option for him at this point?
No.
Who else? If we're looking into
It's,
the
Steelers and
Raiders?
No, it's an indoor. It wasn't Raiders though. It's an indoor facility. It was a young kid. Was it Saints maybe?
I mean, Saints. Derek Carr just retired.
That's what I said. So
yeah.
I think it might be Saints that they were joking about that's the other option.
Okay. Do you think he'll play football next year?
Aaron Rodgers to the Saints is the first thing to look up. So they're talking about. I know. I do believe he's going to play football next year. I do.
So are you still thinking Steelers? Or are you thinking Saints may have taken that over?
I think Steelers were the best option for him because he loves playing in the cold, or he's just great at playing in the cold. Yeah. But the weapons that he would have at the Saints outweigh the weapons he would have at the Steelers, is my thought.
I mean, you got, let's see, Olave, Kamara, Brandon Cooks. Tyler Shue is listed as their starting quarterback, the kid they just drafted who nobody thought was really even that good.
Exactly. So I think Rodgers knew things were coming. Like, he's kept in touch with Derek Carr.
Yeah.
They both at the Raiders. Yeah. Not both at the Raiders, but he played at the Raiders.
They're both veteran quarterbacks.
Yeah. So I'm sure he knew something was coming up with that and was like, I'll see what my offers are going to end up being.
Yeah.
I think the Saints might be the best option for him, but I can see him easily choosing Pittsburgh over anywhere because of the weather.
So I'm going to say Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And I guess you probably lean towards
the Saints. Yeah, I'm going to lean towards the Saints.
All right. Awesome.
Just because of that lack of depth, everything. So maybe they'll go after Jameis. They'll get him back.
All right. Well, that wraps up our headlines. We're going to make a new segue going in. We're going to do a top 10 for college football. This will start being our fall preview. Yes.
Yeah.
A new segment. It's going to be our fall preview. We're going to go in and do our top 10, discuss the previews of what's to come in fall football. We're already excited. We've gotten that point now where things are starting to really pick up post-spring, and we're only a few months away from starting. So we're going to start doing every week a top 10 for quarterbacks, running backs in the SEC, coaches, etc., leading up to the season, and we can't wait for it. So we already got to start talking about it because that's how much we love it here on Tide Tigers.